Hello and welcome everyone to City Skylines and to the Green Cities DLC. Now, in the last episode, we expanded out Aavak a little bit. We even added in a new industry area. This one is specifically focused on lumber, and as a result, we'll be generating quite a bit of extra truck traffic. So we're going to need to keep an eye on that as it's pulling out and heading out onto the highway, because we're not really going to be making use of the majority of that. However, down here we're going to find that a lot of the buildings have or are in the process of upgrading to self-sustaining houses, which is actually pretty cool as well, because that's all going to be helping us out by reducing the amount of power or water or garbage that we need to deal with at the city level. Now, I also asked for a couple of suggestions in terms of names for districts and main important roads. And one of the first names that we got was Radiant Garden, which I thought was a pretty awesome name, Radiant Garden. And just to reiterate, the way that I pick the names is I will post a comment on the video where I'm looking for names, and it'll be pinned so it's nice and high up the top, easy to find, and everyone who suggests a name, all those names go into a hat and it's picked randomly. So there we are. Radiant Garden will be our district that will probably expand to include all of the housing along this area. Now, for probably the most important road in the city at the moment, we've got Hickory Street currently, and that shall instead become Lovelace Lane. Lovelace Land? No. Lovelace Lane. There we go. And over here we've got Poplar Square, which honestly is a pretty solid name as is for a district which is dedicated to the lumber industry, but amusingly, Chaoticles selected from the suggested names of Midna's Meadow. There we go, which is actually quite a lovely name as well. Now, I'm thinking that since this is going to be a fairly important road to our industry, we'll also name this one. So currently it is, excuse me, Greenway Avenue. A lovely name for a road in and of itself, but that shall be Bone Dragon. Just Bone Dragon. There we go. Bone Dragon, you now have a road named after you. I hope you enjoy. Alright, now down in Radiant Garden, we're already starting to see that many of our houses have started to upgrade to at least level 2, though some are on their way to level 3 and are making some decent progress towards that goal. That's actually going to be really nice when we've got some level 3 houses. I'm wondering what they're going to look like once these rooftop gardens are properly developed. However, we clearly need a lot more housing, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to develop this area even further. Let's actually just double check. Have we got enough population over here? Because one thing I was a little worried about was the requirement for low educated workers, but it actually seems that we've met that requirement regardless. Still, I may keep that in mind for the future. We might have to create a small dedicated district where the emphasis is less on further education and more on skills and apprenticeships and that sort of thing. It says it wants uneducated workers. In my mind, it just wants workers that are educated in a different sort of way. Because I'm not going to make a district that specifically denies people learning. I have no issue with people choosing the sort of learning that they want. I do have issue intentionally denying people the opportunity just because you need people to work in mines and in lumber yards. That is not what we're going to be doing. Right, let's bring this out. We'll actually have a little bit of a curve here. Just a straightforward curve, this one. Just straight up there. There we go. And yeah, I think we can just bring that up there and across, and that's going to create a nice little connection for us. That's going to allow actually no, we need that to be the other way. Yes, That is completely the wrong way. What a derp. I see why, though. It's because we didn't have it connected before, so there's no reason to worry about making sure it pointed the right way. There we go. So they can enter down here, leave up there, or they can simply cross over and then leave that way if it's more convenient. But we may actually need either to centralize this or have another one, because as people exit at this point, they may want to be over here. Like, it would be much better if the traffic that wants to, for example, move into a house over here can just drive all the way along and exit at this point rather than down there. I'll have to keep an eye on that, because right now I'm seeing trucks using this method. As we pull this across, we can reduce having heavy goods lorries and those sorts of things moving along here. I wonder if we actually have that control on this street specifically, on Anna Street. Party Road. No, we don't seem to. Okay, well, we'll have a look into that. But as I mentioned, we definitely need a lot more, and I really do mean a lot more in the way of residential. So let's try and focus on that for the time being. We can't draw that out, but that's fine. Instead, again, I think we're going to go for another larger kind of square here with residential in it. Though that is frustrating a little bit. It's clear that that is not a perfect solution down there. That is a bit of a potch, really. In fact, can I draw this straight up? I sort of can, actually. Nah, I don't really want to there. I think it'd be better to have something completely different moving along here. Perhaps even hooking up to this street down there, maybe. I would prefer it if we drew this out instead and maybe even connected it up there. Let's see about doing that. Let's have a little bit of a more densely packed street moving along here. There we go. And all the way out, in fact, to there. And then straight up. There we are. Now, I could have this come down here and make a small connection there. Yeah, that isn't too bad, actually. I quite like that one. And then we can start filling this out. Marvellous. I think this will be quite a nice little area. And again, I'm trying to focus so that we don't have housing building off Lovelace Lane. I think, generally speaking, the housing is going to be much better along here. Now, the problem with this area is the noise pollution is going to be hitting these houses a little bit. So, maybe we could get rid of... No, we'll actually keep up with that. Oh, wait. We do have another alternative, and that is we can simply not have any housing along there and have all of this be commercial, because commercial acts as a bit of a sound dampener. And in fact, let's go ahead and do the same down here. Let's have some more commercial down here as well, just to absorb some of the sound coming from the wind turbines. I mean, it's not a perfect solution, certainly, but it will go a small ways to improving the situation for our tenants. Is this for... There we are. We don't want these ones, actually, because that's a little bit too far. Over here, it doesn't matter so much, because they can actually reach. But over here, we do want to make sure that it's only 4 deep from the road. Otherwise, you're wasting the zone. There we are. Nice and tidy. Now, we do need some water as well, so let's lay those pipes. And we can just bring that straight out there. Over in this direction is going to be a little bit more complicated, but we should be able to hook this up. I wish I could see the grid line there, but that'll do, I suppose. And then straight down as well. Marvellous. There we are. And we can now fill this in without any concern that we're not going to be able to... we're going to have to worry about water and the likes. Right, so given that then, will this actually make a decent connection? It can be made to. So let's get that in there. Yeah, nice little curve there, I think is wonderful. And finally, It's going to result in the loss of a few structures, and that is a bit of a shame, but no, that's fine, I think. There we go. Let's just get all of that across there. There we are. Now we've got a couple of new spaces that we can use to build. We can even have some nice things in there, perhaps some pathways and the likes, because we haven't really used much in terms of pathways. And one of the things that I was asked is it possible to make a city which is focused more on pedestrian traffic, on more cyclists, that sort of thing? Absolutely possible to do that. You do have to expressly go out of your way to achieve it, but it is 100% possible, yes. If you go over here, you've got all sorts of paths. For example, we can make cycling lanes along the outsides here, areas specifically set up for our cyclists, and I actually quite like that idea. Thinking about it, let's try and get this to conform a little bit closer to what we want. How are we going to be able to get that to work? Maybe if I just bring it out there. No. If there was an easy way, I would like to know what it would be. No, everything seems to want to turn a little bit too hastily. And may take a little bit of parching there, but it is quite possible to do at the very least. We'll just set up some of the straight parts first then. So we'll just take that all the way over there so that our cyclists can move freely. In fact, we might even be able to just make a nice easy path over there. It's not perfect, I don't think. Oops. Let's go about there. Oh, we just can't seem to get the right angle there. Oh, there we go. Perfect. You just got to finagle it now and then. But yeah, so we've got a little bike path right behind the shops, and we could carry this throughout the city if we really want to do. We could easily have a little bridge heading up and over so that our cyclists could get towards the industrial district without having to use any cars or anything like that. And I think that is something that I'd like to do. I would like to focus on those elements in the city where possible. So let's continue that down here. We'll start there though. They will have to cross the street here and there, but that should be fine. Right, let's bring that down here because that is the anchor point. Let's find the anchor point just over here. That's a little bit close. Let's grab the anchor point there. There we are. It's not going to be perfect. There's all sorts of mods that allow you to paint the ground as well. So if you're really detail oriented, then you can go ahead and get really creative with this game. It's quite possibly one of the best games for that level of creativity. There are so many mods that allow you to just design all sorts of things, put different kinds of markings on the road if perhaps the roads in your country are a little bit differently marked, and you want to try and emulate that a bit. It's entirely possible. And in fact, I think the community quite welcomes anyone to add that sort of thing as well. If it doesn't already exist for the kinds of markings that you have, there will be someone who is working on it, or a lot of help available to help you work on it, should you wish to. Now then, what I would like over here is probably to have. Yeah, I think we want to take this little cyclist route out a little bit and then across. Maybe it's somewhere like here, sure. Or just one across. Yeah, 2 across should be fine, actually. Let's bring this up there and make sure that it is set to 3s. And 1, 2, 3. There we go. We'll have a little cyclist ramp going over the road there. And one here as well. There we are. And I want it back onto the ground. Now, I want a fairly gentle. Oops, that is not what I wanted. Can I undo that at all? No, it does not seem that I can. Well, that's just a scallywag. Let me get rid of that then. I want this to be quite a gentle incline though, because you don't want the cyclist to have to work too hard just to get up onto this. Right. Okay. So if we bring this down, then we just connect it up here. For example, we'll bring it out by 4. Bring this up by 4, and then connect the 2 up. There we go. Marvelous, I say. Marvellous. I like it. There we go. And the same on this side. How many tiles is this? 1, 2... Well, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It was a little bit of a potch to actually see that properly, but sure. And we can have this actually a more of a angle there rather than a curve, but that's fine. And we want a similar one over here. Alright, that actually connects up the 2 sections of our city then. Is that in the right sort of place? I think it is, yes, good. There we are. So the 2 halves of our city are now connected by cycle routes. Now, the cyclists can, I'm fairly certain, use the walkway here, the pavement. I'm not entirely sure though. So what I will likely do as well, because I'm not sure if the pedestrians can. Oh, they can. They can just walk along the road there. That's actually quite lovely. But I might give them something nice to cross over the road as well. They might actually have a dedicated pedestrian path. We're already seeing cyclists using that. Oh, fantastic. Keeping healthy. I approve. Okay, and as you can see, just adding a couple of finishing touches, nothing particularly special. You can get very, very into the decorations in this game. And you can spend an awfully long time. And I mean an awfully long time doing that. But there we go. We've just made that little area just a tad bit more enjoyable for our cyclists to go across there. I may actually yet go to a little bit more effort in the future to decorate it properly. But for the time being, that's fine. We've got all sorts of things. Water structures, rocks. The rocks might be quite nice. We could possibly dot that little area with some decorative rocks, but that's enough decorating that little part for now. Let's focus our energies a little bit more on getting the city up and running. So let's continue with our expansion of residential, I think, around here, and of course down here as well. There we are. We could go with a little bit more commercial. And you know what? Actually, let's go with something else. I'm sorry about that. I'm messing you around. You already started construction and everything. But let's actually have a block of commercial. This will actually be quite nice, I think, in the long run. Because we don't really have any... All we've really got at the moment is just corner stores. And maybe the occasional high street. But here we are. That'll actually make for a nice little... block of commercial that should do the city well for a little while to come. We might actually have some more on the outside. It might be time simply to expand. And if we did expanding out in this direction would be the nicest thing. Though, I almost feel that I wanted to dedicate an episode to sorting out this highway and the highway interchange before we set up any large housing area at the back. So yeah, I think we will continue to expand down here a little bit more. In fact, over here it'll actually be much nicer because it won't have all of the wind turbines right next to it. Might work out quite well. That being said, we have a lack of workers. What are we lacking? We are lacking uneducated workers. Okay, well, one thing we can do then is we can go ahead and we can implement my initial idea for having an additional residential area. We can build that out over here. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. Let's expand this road, expand and extend down to about there. There we go. And we'll start building up the new residential area just around here, actually. We may reserve this little area along here for some docks and loading and that sort of thing, because I think that might serve our industry quite well. But yeah, we'll actually branch out and have another residential district just in this direction. So, with that in mind, low happiness. Well, I don't think it's that low, is it? But okay, let's pop down some parks and plazas quickly before we get to that then. We've got some basketball courts. We've got parks down here, plazas. Where could we place a couple of things here? We could even put down some unique buildings, actually, if we really wanted to. We've got quite a few. We could put a football stadium. There's no way that we can afford either of those. An eerie plaza to celebrate how well the city handles its deceased. Requirement for building the fusion power plant. I actually really like the look of this one. So let's go ahead and see if we can't fit this in somewhere nice, like back here. Maybe we can. Yeah, I think we should be able to. If we can run a little road down there, though it's a little bit close to that junction. So let's actually look for somewhere other than that. We could have it over here, actually, if we really wanted to. And that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Sure, let's pop that down there. And in fact, once that's there, we can then go ahead and add a couple of paths around it as well. Just to show that people can get around. Yeah, we'll take that all the way up. All the way down here. Sorry, house, you need to go. In the name of progress, or in the name of beautification, I suppose, more to the point. Right, I'd like this then to have a bit more of a curve. And I'm sorry, but your house is now in the way of progress. Needs to move. Needs to move. It's imperative, you see. Can I not demolish that? I might have to demolish it expressly. In that case, get rid of you. Sorry. Really am super sorry. But it has to be done. Has to be done for progress. We'll take one up there as well, I think. Actually, let's not worry too much. This is a fairly small little area here. So let's not worry too much about that. Of having lots of little paths leading out there. But let's go with a couple of trees. Just well, some very small trees there. My goodness, let's find something a little bit bigger, shall we? Yeah, just a couple of trees. Oh, that's a nice big tree there. Dot these around here and there. Just to make this place feel a little nicer, I think. There we go. And a couple of bushes around the bases of some of the trees. Some places for animals to live. Maybe a couple of rabbits. Just have made a little warren underneath that tree. They've been there for quite some time, in fact. Even though the tree was only planted there, it's always been there. Really, it's just only now we're starting to see it. That's fine. There we go. Get a couple of bushes around there. Maybe one or two of these are actually large bushes, like a large blackberry bush. And the residents come out and they gather blackberries every now and then. And it's a lovely little thing. They take the kids out. It's beautiful. Right, there we go. That's nice there. It's probably not done that much for the happiness in that area, but that's fine. Right, back to our main task, and that is to make a new area for our industry to recruit its workers from. I actually really like working with the landscape in games like this. I really like working with the landscape in games like this. And much like any other game, I just think it makes for much more interesting looking areas if you let the land dictate the shape of everything. And, you know, efficiency be damned. Don't tell Dog Aavak I said that. We'll need some services over here as well. In fact, we might want to branch off on this side and actually continue that. We could even have more of this residential area that we're going to be building up on this side, and then some sort of connection down there, because generally we're not going to find that the residents want to move over to the other residential area too much, but these ones will want to pop down there to the shops here and there. So that makes a little bit more sense for us to have it connected in some way. We'll bring this out about... One thing it is a shame is I can barely see the angle markers in this mode now, which is a slight problem for me. I'll be honest with you. How long can I get that out? You know what? Let's extend this road, because that is one that I'm going to want extended. There we are. And I would like to just have this road move along on its own journey until it crosses its path. So something like that will do. There we go. And then we can just come straight up and connect there. Okay, so that gives us a bit of a connection. Now, that might need the road to be upgraded at some point, and if so, we'll worry about it when that time comes. But for the time being, sure, we're going to go for a bit of a larger block of housing there. That'll do nicely. And I don't want to get too close down to the road there. In fact, I want to say that this will probably be as close to that roundabout as we get. I don't want to make it feel boxed in, considering how important of a roundabout it is when you think about it. Let's get that a little bit lower. That corner will be a little bit too aggressive then. I guess that's actually not too bad. Okay, we don't need this overlay on any longer because we're quite far away from the mountains. Down here, not liking this too much, so let's get a little bit better with this. Let's pop into there. Can we find the marker? Sort of. And it's maybe if we do that, it'll work. Sure. Let's just get a bit of a nicer curve to this street, shall we? There we go. And bring that up and across. There we are. Perfect. I know it might seem quite fiddly to get those curves, but I think it makes such a difference to the layout of the city when you actually go to the effort to get things looking just so. Right, down here, I would like this to just come straight down. Get a couple of houses, just kind of packed in a little bit more densely here. There we are, that's good enough. On this side, I'm not even going to connect these up. These can actually just be streets, almost like terraces, if you like. Such as the terraces that I grew up at. Ah, how lovely. That might sound like I'm being sarcastic, but actually, I love the place that I grew up with. As far away as it was from civilization, and as difficult as it was to like get to shops and things, but I loved it. I loved it. The entire mountain was my backyard. Right. Okay, let's grab this. I often miss it, in fact. Though, the place I moved to had a castle right there. Like, literally, I could throw a stone from a bedroom window and well, I wouldn't be able to hit the castle itself because, you know, I had a moat, and I could hit the moat, though. Well, you know, when I had when I'd grown up a bit, my throwing arm was a little bit more powerful, at the very least. When I was tiny, yeah, it was a matter of like, yeah, I could say I could throw a stone at it. Really? No, I couldn't. But there we go. That's wonderful. Thinking about it, I've actually lived in some wonderful places when I really think back. Right, okay, we've got our new residential area all set up. Now then, let's go ahead. Honestly, as we do this, we're going to be able to just have this pipeline connect up, and I think that would be a good idea. Right, okay. Have you noticed that there's an abandoned building? Well, I hadn't actually, but I have now. Thank you very much for pointing that out. Let me get those sorted. Because that is a wee bit bad, to be fair. That is going to be bringing down the value of that area quite considerably, actually. Okay, how are we doing for water? Electricity still good. Okay, well, we're going to be expanding a fair bit, so I'm imagining I'm going to need to increase the budget for these things soon. We have still got a bit of demand for commercial, so let's go ahead and actually I'm going to leave that for services, some services at the very least. Let's instead get that all built up there. Sure, we'll get the rest of these too. There we go, and all the way down here as well. There we are, lovely. They're now actually built up quite nicely, so we're getting a bit more commercial in here. I am a little bit tempted here, but I think on the whole, having this kind of high street along there is actually quite nice. I think that's more than good enough. Now, this is going to have to be its own district up here. These sorts of areas are all going to belong to a new district. So let's actually set that up right now rather than wait. So we're going to want something along these lines and up and around. There we are. Not sure what we're going to name it yet, but this entire district will be here so that we can specify that I would like our population to focus on work skills when they come out of nursery and well, not straight out of nursery, out of primary school. Oh, that would be a bit harsh. It's like, no, you're practically an adult now, my lord. You're already like 4. What are you doing? You need to get a job. I mock it because there are almost certainly some people who feel that's true. Right, there we go. Let's get all of this sorted as well. But yeah, we'll focus on like apprenticeships and the likes around here. And I think that's going to be absolutely marvellous. Absolutely marvellous. Right, Ivy Heights. I thought I said my house. I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. Right, now, let's have a consideration of the policies that are available in this area. So, policies. Parks and recreation, schools out. Here we go. The citizens will prefer working over education, and only a small portion of the eligible citizens will go to study in the university. There we go. So we'll get schools out going there. So we'll always have a portion of our population that will decide to focus on work-based education and apprenticeships and relevant skills, and I think that's going to be really, really good. Okay, now, the thing is, I don't want to have to fill this in, so let's just hope that we can get some residences along here to start with, because we can easily hook them up to the pylons to begin with that. Actually, let's do it over here instead. So let's go forward, down, build that up. This can all be built up, that's fine. And we can also go 4 deep along that side as well. There we are, and sure, we'll get some of this painted in too. There we go. But we are going to need to connect that to the electricity. We can do that fairly simply just by doing that. I'm going to need that to all develop downwards, so let's speed up a little bit of time. I realize that a lot of this episode hasn't been with Time Accelerator. I do apologize for that, but there we are. We've now got Ivy Heights starting to fill in. Marvellous. Okay, Triple, what was that? I'm looking for an apartment or a house in the city. Anything will do. Please PM for further contact. Very well. It's nice to see our citizens helping each other out with that kind of thing. Right, okay, let's continue to fill this out then, because we've got plenty of room for this. So let's actually get, well, I'll leave a little bit of room around here. Don't want to fill that in just yet, but the top one definitely can be. And we can certainly start doing it over on this side, though I may need to, again, get a pylon just to connect up the electricity to start with. But this should be really nice, I'm hoping. There we go. Let's just get that little area starting to be built up. Now, we're actually starting to see an increase in demand for industry. Oh, that is very, very nice to see. Now, presently, we don't have much in the way of industry, so I'm going to add a little bit there just for our regular industry. And sure, we'll continue to develop up Midlands Meadow as well. There we are. It shouldn't be too bad, all things said and done. Now, hopefully this place will start to develop soon. Our vacation was extended. Could someone water the plants? I'm sure someone will be able to, and if not, the mayor will. Right, let's pop that down there. Oh, it's terrible when you lose plants because you're away for a little while and you can't get them watered. Right, why are you cutting down all the trees? They're planting the trees, they're cutting. It's fine. All the trees are over there. We're not going there. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. See, planting trees. I'm not actually sure that. I don't think they're cutting those trees. Though actually, they might be. You know, forestry. Yeah, they may be actually setting up little. That's actually quite amusing. Right, what have we got down here? We have got high schools, but we've already got a high school, so we don't need one. Actually, that being said, let's check this out. Okay, so we've got uneducated is 53% of the city, educated is 25%, well-educated now is 22%. We do not have any highly educated because we don't have any university opportunities yet. Okay, so with that being said, though, it is time for us to pop down an elementary school. And with this one, I think we're going to go for... No, I still think we'll go with the community. The community school, or rather not the community school, where's the elementary school version of that? Is this it? Yeah, it is. It is that one. Ah, that's right. The Institute of Creative Art is the higher education one. Right, okay, so you guys are going to get yourselves a school. And we're going to pop that one about here because it's time for us to expand that, because right now we are suffering a little bit. Ooh, we're getting some brownouts. Okay, let's pause time. for a second and just increase the budget a little bit. Let's see how much into the... Well, we're almost into the red. We'll increase this up to 95%, but we may be looking at getting another power plant soon. What kind of power plant? I'm not sure yet. We'll have to see, but we're only just there. Only just. There we are. Let's have a look at this one. Thanks. We're at Boomtown. Hooray! We've now got access to transport, taxis, level 3 unique buildings, ferries, buses, and trams. Public transport. We can now also move into the ore industry specialization, which may be very, very useful. We've got a slew of new policies. We've got recycling, which is going to increase recycling even further. Recycling is a big part of environmental sustainability. It also helps keep the neighborhoods looking tidy. With a small investment in recycling technologies and waste containers, you can make your city neat. Slightly reduces garbage accumulation and slightly reduces tax income. Recreational use of controlled substances slightly increases tax income, moderately increases tourism, slightly reduces crime rate, and increases police budget by 15%. Prefer ferries. High ticket prices raise public transport ticket prices by 25% to get more profit. This may result in less passengers. Yeah, I wouldn't be that surprised. Recycling centers work with plus 20% efficiency. Cost 100 per recycling center per week. All right. No electricity for heat. And only electricity for heat. That would be much more relevant if this was a particular cold environment. But we've now got all kinds of lanes. We've got bus lanes, bus and taxi lanes there. We've got ferry pathways, all sorts of things, heat pipes as well. And we have got the advanced wind turbine. But unfortunately, we've got a lot of new buildings that we can now build. So people can actually start caring about this. So we've got the bus depot. We've got advanced wind turbines. These are just useful things for us. But the cemetery, we are now going to have to start taking care of the dead. Otherwise, people are going to get very unhappy, which is reasonable because the corpses are just littering the streets. We need a corpse wagon at the very least. Right, taxi depot. A tram depot as well, that's quite nice. We've got geothermal heating plant, boiler station. Again, these are only that important if you want to use a map which has a particularly low regular temperature. The tank reservoir is a water reservoir. The city pumps more water than it needs. The excess is stored here in tanks. If the pump fails or the need for water rises, the tank gives out water. The reservoir automatically supplies the city if the water need is greater than production. Must be connected to water pipe. That's interesting. I imagine that's for more helping with disasters as well, should a disaster knock out your water infrastructure. Medical helicopter depot. A medical helicopter depot sends out helicopters to pick up patients and take them to hospitals and clinics. Helicopters can reach locations with no road access and help avoid traffic jams. At the end of shift, helicopters return to the depot. That's actually pretty cool. Small emergency shelter. A small shelter to allow your citizens to be safe from disasters. A shelter has a limited amount of space for citizens, but you can choose which areas use which shelters by planning escape routes after a disaster. Citizens who have lost their homes can live in the shelter until they can find new homes. Oh, that's actually quite lovely. I mean, not for the people being forced to live in the shelter, but it is nice that if someone loses a home, they don't just immediately have to leave the city. You can keep them in the shelters for a little while you rebuild houses and the likes. Short radio mass, I imagine, to alert people that an emergency is occurring. Disaster response unit. Disaster response unit sends out helicopters and trucks to help clear rubble and rescue survivors. That's marvelous. I'm really liking all of these. Ferry specific things. A biofuel bus depot. The biofuel bus depot works just like a regular bus depot, except that it sends out biofuel buses instead of regular ones. The biofuel buses are much more quiet than regular buses, but carry just as many people. Marvelous. And a wave power plant. Harness the kinetic power of water with an affordable wave power plant. Waves are created by wind passing over the water's surface. Strong winds speeds pushes the water into a series of reservoirs, which then feed the interior generators to produce power. Cables are used to deliver the electricity onshore. Well, we don't actually have anywhere that we could build this, but we might be able to build the advanced wind turbines. But I think that may be all the time we have for today's episode. Though, before we actually leave, we've got quite a lot of additional desire for housing. So we could go ahead and build this out. Wow, what is low happiness? Where? Got 2 sites of particularly low happiness. You know what would help with that? A park, I think. We'll actually get a proper park too this time. Let's see, what kind of parks we got? We've got a small park for small sports. We've got a small playground, park with trees. Where's the dog park? Dog park, because everyone needs a place for their doggo. That's going to make everyone so happy. Look at that. So many dog lovers. I approve. However, we're going to wrap the episode up by flashing out the residential just along that part there, and with that our energy is going to be a bit tight for now. We can pop down 1 advanced wind turbine as well, because this should be quite good. Oh, actually, if we simply replace the one we had before, it might be better, because the wind over here is a lot better. Oh, actually, no, these can only be in the water. Never mind. Okay, well, it's not quite as good over here, I must confess. It would be better out in the deeper waters of the ocean, but 16 versus 8, how much are they? 80 per week, 200 per week. It's not quite as efficient, unfortunately. Well, let's avoid doing that then. I'm afraid we're going to have to go with another coal-fired plant for the time being, and we might as well have 2 of them close to each other. That way the deliveries are going to be a little bit easier for our trucks. So I'm going to pop this one down right there, and there we go. Right, that should fix our power problems for quite some time, I would say. In fact, we can now drop the budget significantly. Let's see how that one goes. Yeah, there we go. That'll do. We'll leave that there for now, but that is going to be it from me. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. We did a little bit more detailing than I really meant to, but I'm quite happy with what we've got. We're going to probably continue that theme going throughout the series, but I'll make cuts where I think a little bit too much time and not enough progress, because you can spend a long time on tiny details in this game if you get sucked in, and I often do. I'll keep a watch out for that and try to streamline the viewing process where I think it's important to do so. But let me know in the comments what you think about having detail in the series as a whole, and I will see you in the next episode. But until then, and as always, do take care, everyone.